Welcome, everyone, to the Experience Calmcast, where we discuss all the different stressors of life and bring you tools so that you can manage that stress. I am your host, Brigett, a single mom of three, health coach, fitness coach, educator, author, and business owner. So I know a thing or two about stress. In each episode, I bring in other health practitioners, health coaches, or business owners, and we discuss different ways that stress affects us and give you resources, tips, and techniques on how to manage that stress for a healthy and calm body, mind, and spirit. So grab a cup of coffee and enjoy the show. Welcome to the Experience Calmcast. I am your host, Brigett, and today I have a special friend with me, Kathy Bley. She is a certified health coach and has been in the wellness and health industry advocating for health for over 30 years. So welcome in, Kathy.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here with you today.
I am excited that you are here too. So I know you have been doing this for quite some time now, have a lot of experience with health and wellness. So go ahead and tell us a little bit more about your story and just how you got involved in health and wellness, how that became a passion for you.
Well, unfortunately, what happened for me was that my body was deciding it didn't really like the way I was treating it. And I had started out as a young child, like about 15 months old, in the hospital. And it put me on some IV antibiotics that I needed at the time because I was severely dehydrated on a Christmas Eve. And so I truly believe now, with the understanding that I have, that getting on those antibiotics so early in my life started me down a road towards a lot of digestive issues and other things that really were difficult for me to deal with growing up, but not anything that was as anything terrible, but just enough to cause a lot of distress. And so my own body was telling me that I had to make some changes. And so my mother ended up with some difficult situations as she got older, and she developed adult asthma and got on some steroids that caused her all sorts of problems. And so one time I was standing next to her hospital bed, and because she and I were very, very similar physically, I said, God, please don't let me turn out like her, because she was in and out of hospitals at the time and trying to get enough oxygen and all those things. And that's when I started down this path of changing my diet, getting vitamins and minerals into my body, and just a slow progression of learning what it means to take care of me on the inside, and then eventually take care of me mentally and emotionally and all the other things that I've dealt with.
Yeah.
So it just started as a way to take care of my own body that turned into something much more.
Yeah, it seems like as health coaches, the more I talk to people in this area, in this arena, most of us have come into this field and have become so passionate about it because of our own story, where it could be very different, but it seems like we've all walked through these challenges and had to overcome some kind of health challenge, health issues. And because of that, we now want to help others, and we see the need for that, but also just the hope in the fact that there is hope, that we can really do a lot for our health.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that so much, because it was definitely a God-driven path for me that took me away from traditional medical care, because with all my other issues, I ended up being on antibiotics over and over and over. And, that didn't help. I had chronic sinus issues, female hormone issues, and everything that I had to have a different way to treat than what was available at the time. Back then, there was not the scientific evidence behind doing a lot of supplements and different things that there is now. But for me, it was just, okay, I'm going to try this, and just kind of go along. But now you can do it knowing that there's scientific evidence behind it, and you can find doctors who will agree with you and help you walk on this road also.
Yeah, which is so key because, like you said, at one point it was almost just kind of that old wives' tale, or, things passed down from generation to
Yes,
generation. Some
yes.
of it might have really worked, but now we do have more and more science to actually back up some of these things and to really give us a good direction and options in things to choose for our health. So just to know that there are options out there. There are natural options and things that will help your body and things that do have the science to back it up. It is very empowering.
Yes, it
So
is.
so Kathy, tell me, I know that, like I said, you've been doing this, you've been advocating for health for quite some time now. So tell us a little bit more specifically about how you're doing that now. And I know stress plays such an important role in that. Tell us how you see stress, coming up and affecting people in your clients and the things that you do today.
Okay. That is very good for me to talk about because one reason I also got into this is back about 30 years ago is when my hairstylist was cutting my hair one day and she says, "Oh, do you realize you have some bald spots up here on top of your head?" And I was like,
Oh,
"No,
wow.
no, I did not." And I said, "What do you think is causing that?" And she said, "Stress." I mean, there was no doubt in her mind that it was
Wow.
caused by stress. So the first time that happened, I went the medical route and got some steroid shots in my head that now I cringe to think about. But at the time, what I really wanted was to get rid of those bald spots quickly.
Right.
And so it worked, that was what was available then. And it also led me to go get some counseling because I had grown up in a bit of a traumatic family atmosphere. And so I lived in that fight, flight, or freeze state a lot.
Mm.
And so I
Yeah.
see that with clients now too. We don't know how to get out of that. And some of it is like the big T trauma that we think about that, is the real abuse or situations where kids have to be taken out of their families. And then there's the little T trauma that's just the more, they're not as serious, but they still have the same traumatic effect on your brain.
Right.
And then there's the everyday stressors that we can run across, traveling down I-65 or Highway 280 in Birmingham,
Right.
where you get upset because all of a sudden traffic comes to a stop and you're 10 minutes late already for a doctor's appointment, that kind of stress. Our brain handles all those kind of stresses differently. And so it depends on what kind of stress you're dealing with as to what's going on. But one thing that I see a lot is interpersonal relationship stress. And that's what people, whether it's with their coworkers or family members, parents, a spouse, a lot of people that I see are in that in between where they might be caring for aging parents and yet still taking care of kids at home as well. And so there's just a lot of stress in those relationships. And sometimes it's hurt feelings from the past that have never been dealt with. One of the things that was very, very beneficial to me when I first went to counseling was my counselor first recognized that when he did the test, my depression level was very high. And
Mm.
that was not really that surprising considering that I had never dealt with any of my issues from the
Right.
past, but I had compensated it by getting socially active. I always had friends. I was always going to other people's houses when I was growing up. I was watching how other people were living. And, that was kind of my get out of my own house and go to these houses that I could just sense had something different as far as health going, mental health,
Yeah.
relationship health, that kind of thing. And so I was able to compensate for my depression level with these social things. And so it balanced it out. And to this day, I still will do that. If I feel a little down, I'll call a friend, and
Right.
go have coffee or whatever. But
And
so
not
that was
necessarily always a bad thing, but
no,
just just
not a
not
bad thing at all.
right. But still not maybe addressing that root issue sometimes.
Exactly. So what I did have to address and that I help people understand to look at really in some of the beginning is what are you carrying around that's a burden? That's like a grudge that you're holding against somebody, some unforgiveness, there can be deep woundedness in people that forgiveness needs to be given, and the forgiveness is for yourself is what I learned. It sets
Yes.
you free, and the other person may never even know that you have a grudge against them. They may never know how deeply they've hurt you. They may not have a clue, but in your own self you can get the freedom that you need from that. And it doesn't mean that they're off the hook, as far as
Absolutely.
anything that you need to do. And in my own situation, I learned that I could have a relationship with family members that had been hurtful with boundaries in place. And that
Mhm.
was what I chose. I chose to love them in a way that God wanted me to love them, but to do it with boundaries in place to protect my own self, my own mental health, my own spiritual
Yes.
health. And so that was very, very beneficial for me. And one of the greatest things that I think we can offer to our own selves is to forgive and not allow that anger, that bitterness, that resentment to keep that place of honor in our lives.
Yes, absolutely. Those boundaries, sometimes we think we put those boundaries up to keep people out, but that's not really the intent. The intent is to keep those boundaries to allow people in, but in a safe way, in a way that respects them, but also allows us to respect ourselves and to maintain that respect. And so I love that you did that and was able to go through that process through that forgiveness and can speak on the other side of that because you're right. Sometimes we think of forgiveness as letting someone off the hook or whatever, and that's really not it. There truly is a difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. I can forgive you, but that doesn't mean that relationship may not ever be reconciled. It really depends on both people for that. But that is so important, that forgiveness aspect for us to be able to move on. And so that's a lot of heavy stuff, I'm sure, as you're working with clients in
Yeah.
that, but it is so important because so many people think, these health issues that are going on, it's all physical, but
Mhm.
you're saying that it may come out physical and there may be some physical things there, but
Yeah.
there's some emotional things going on too that's directly going to affect our physical bodies.
Yes, absolutely. And then when you're under stress like that, your cortisol levels in your body go up. And then that causes sometimes you to hang on to extra fat in your
Yes.
body and in your bloodstream that you don't need to have, but that's our bodies are made to do that so that when we're running, if we're in a situation where we have to flee, that's a something that was put into our nervous systems to help us. But in this day and time, we don't get the exercise, we don't do the
Right.
movement, and usually we're not under the kind of stress that we're literally having to get away. And so our
Exactly.
body hangs on to that cortisol. And if your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous systems are in balance with each other, as soon as that dangerous situation, whatever you sense is danger to you, is gone, then the parasympathetic should come back in and it should help you to rest, it should help you to digest, and it should balance it back out. But in many of us, and I was like that, I didn't know how to do that. I had never been taught to do that. And so I always felt like I was walking on eggshells. I was looking around every situation, and this was not conscious. This is just what I kind of had trained myself to do. Looking around, okay, is there anything I need to be fearful of here? Is there any way that, safety is a concern for me, whether it be
Mhm.
emotional, physical, whatever. I just had this sense that I needed to do everything right, everything well. I was very type A, and in our house, we were taught, don't make your dad mad, don't make your sister cry. So that left the other two of us, my middle sister and I, to have to wonder, okay, what does that look like? Well, then you're walking around all the time wondering, is this word I'm going to say going to cause trouble? Or is that, and it was never truly your fault, but you often were made to feel that it
Yes.
was your fault. And so felt fear and real fear are very different. If you have felt fear in a situation, your body's going to react because your brain is trying to protect you and say, okay,
Yes.
there's danger here. So, watch out, and so all those things will happen. Well, if you're drinking caffeine in the middle of that, so you've already got cortisol levels going up because of the stress from your felt fear, you add some caffeine to it because you're nervous and you want to have that little caffeine, well, then that also can increase your cortisol level. So you're just adding to it. So we have to be mindful what we eat when we're feeling stressed like that. We have to be mindful of how we're responding when we feel that kind of a stress to help us get back to that parasympathetic where we can relax and not be in that frightful, fearful state.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like it's learning how to respond instead of react to
Hmm.
those
Hmm.
situations. And
Yes.
you've mentioned several things now, but Is there maybe kind of your top things that you recognize in clients who come to you who maybe they don't even recognize that they're stressed? What are some things that are kind of key that you see that they might be saying or doing that are kind of those telltale signs of maybe some of these issues are actually coming from stress instead of maybe what seems to be just the apparent surface level situations?
Well, I think there's several things that can happen. One is their mindset. You know, if they're justifying what they do all the time, or constantly blaming someone else, or making excuses for their behavior, not taking responsibility for themselves, then sometimes that can be a way to cover up not wanting to deal with it. For me, it was
Mm,
productivity. I'm going to be busy.
yes.
I'm going to be excellent at everything that I do, and I'm going to work hard. I'm going to say yes to everything. I'm going to be busy, 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 busy. And
Yes.
all that was doing was masking what was really going on underneath. And so one day I actually burned out. It was like, okay, this was pre cell phones, and so you still had your own little caller ID thing. Well, if somebody called my house on my landline and I didn't have a caller ID thing, and I didn't know who's, I just didn't answer. And if I didn't have a phone, I would never call them back. I mean, I started doing things that I would never do. And I think
Wow.
that's what we can look for too in this is change of behavior. When
Yes.
all of a sudden you can't get up and do anything when you've been very productive, then that can be a sign that too much stress, your body, your mind, your emotions, everything are starting to shut down because you're giving it more than it can handle. So that's one thing I see. And then I think spiritually too, you can tell sometimes when people are
Absolutely.
real stressed, they either just start to turn way more to God, but in an unhealthy way, in that they're just kind of hiding behind God. It's not like a real relationship, but they're
Yes.
they're not dealing with what's going on the inside. As a Christian and as a woman, sometimes I think we feel like we're not supposed to take care of ourselves. But we
Absolutely.
know, because in Philippians 2, 3, and 4, where it tells us, do nothing from selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others more significant than yourselves. Sometimes we stop there. But it goes on to say, let each of you look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others. When I first read that verse, it was powerful, because I had been so busy taking care of everyone else's needs that I really didn't realize it was okay to take care of my needs. They were kind of pushed down, pushed down, pushed down. And so I think
Yes.
that verse gives us you need to balance it, what you're doing for yourself,
Right.
and but I think we have to take care of ourselves so that we're able to then take care of those around us in a healthier state of mind.
Absolutely. And that's such a true statement. We don't have to think of it as a either or.
Mhm.
It's a both and
Yes.
we see that even in Jesus in his ministry. He took care of others. He got extremely tired and pushed himself many times. And at the same time, he would pull back and he would spend that time in prayer with the Father, refilling himself. So we see that in him. If someone's listening or if you have a client and they're in that situation, regardless of how it's coming out, what are some of the things that they can do? Just some simple things to deal with that stress, to kind of start that process. And I know some people maybe really need some more help than what you or I could give them. They might need some counseling, some of that. But I feel like a lot of people maybe are just in that situation where they do have some stress. They need to deal with it. But it is in a situation where, as coaches, we can help them, and there are tips, techniques, there are things that they can do. So, tell us some of the things that you recommend that help when people are dealing with stress.
Okay. I think one of the most important things for me is to make sure that you're eating a clean diet.
Yes.
Because when we add preservatives, when we add just too much sugar into our diet, when we take in things that the standard American diet says, oh, these are great, eat them. They're fast, they're quick. We're eating too many hamburgers, too many French fries, too many everything. Um, we're not giving our brain or our body what it needs to then be able to handle the stress that's coming in. So it's
Right.
having to fight what we're putting in there. And so I think if you can look at eating more fresh fruits and vegetables, and if you eat none, then just add one. I mean, a small
Right.
thing like that can make a big difference. We forget that small changes go a long way.
Yes,
And so just
absolutely.
look at your diet. If you're having overconsumption of anything, I think can be a problem, and underconsumption, if you're not eating
Yeah.
enough fruits and vegetables, if you're eating too many cookies and cakes. I love sugar. I love cookies, but I've had to learn to scale back, because
Right.
I'm a emotional food eater. Well, you have to watch that. You have to say no, or go get some carrots or some olives or some, something that's healthy. And at the very least, if you're going to have the sugar, then pair it with some protein and some fiber. Either eat, an apple with it, or have some celery with it, or nuts with it. Put in some nuts to get the protein in there, so that you're at least helping your body have the friends of,
Yes.
protein and fiber that can go with that simple sugar. Do it well. Try to take care of
Yes.
your body and realize that it's your responsibility to take care of your own body, just like it's my responsibility to take care of mine, even in the midst of stress. And I think the other thing is, if you are feeling stress, don't eat right then at that moment. Take a minute either to do some deep breathing exercises.
Yes.
You breathe in for 7 seconds, hold it, 4 seconds, breathe it back out. Breathe in, do that over
Yes.
maybe 10 times, and then eat your meal, because your body has a hard time if you're real stressed, because that's put you more in that fight or flight mode,
Mm.
and that's not where it wants to digest. And so you
Right.
have to relax a little bit to get you back to that parasympathetic. Okay, now I can rest and digest food. And so you'll have less stomach issues, less digestive issues, if you're able to do that. Or go outside, take a walk, get out in nature before you eat. We rush through the drive-through and we eat on the
Yep.
go. That's
Yes.
probably the worst thing. If we're going to go through the drive-through, it would be better, one, to order something healthy, but also stop.
Yeah.
Either go
Just
inside and eat it, or even in your car, stop. Don't eat it as you're driving along,
right.
just simple things like that. And then one thing that I've learned recently, and I tested it this week again, is hum. If you start to hum or sing when you're feeling stressed,
Mhm.
it's very hard for your body to be in that fight or flight and to hum or sing, because hum or sing wants to say, hey, I'm happy, I'm doing
Right.
good.
Yeah.
And so if you can add in some humming, that can give immediate relief and try to help get your body to say, oh, okay, she's happy now, so let's go back into the parasympathetic. Okay, we're done with the danger. And so you
Yeah.
can,
I love that.
yeah, I that was real helpful for me. And sometimes if I just feel that little bit of anxiety coming on, I'll say nope, and I'll just think of a song. And I'm not a musical person by any means, as far as being able to truly carry a tune, but I will think of something and just either a hymn or something fun and lively, kind of depending on my mood, and hum that.
Right.
Or other one is tapping, like, you just tap right up in here, and that does something as well. Or when I used to go to my chiropractor, sometimes he's not practicing anymore, but sometimes
Yeah.
you would tap on your head, even just to get your brain to kind of think of different things. And I know a lot of counselors now are doing different tapping
Yes.
techniques too, for that same reason.
Yes, and I know there's even some apps for the tapping and things. So there's more and more research and resources for that. I watched something just recently about humming, and so it seems like that maybe is kind of catching on a little more too, which is
Mhm.
exciting that some of these techniques that we've probably known about, or in some areas we've known about for quite a while now, but they are starting to become more widespread, more popular. And
Mhm.
it's really good because I feel like there is this whole other generation of kids being raised up that are stressed already,
Yes.
and to see them having access to these techniques and to see these techniques being normalized as these are some things you can do. Because I know some of these kids are probably not going to get the resources that they need. They may not even realize what's going on, but if they see this more and more, then I feel like at least they might try some of this and see the benefits and use it themselves. So love all of those. So all right, I interrupted you. So is there any other tips and techniques that you wanted to share?
Um, no, those are the main quick fixes.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that you can do if go with a health coach and let them walk alongside you, or go get some counseling. But as far as quick fixes, those are good. But then also just to make sure you're getting enough sleep.
Yes.
There's so many things that relate to that now that say, go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time every day. One thing I've started doing just to help with the circadian rhythm is to go outside in the morning when I first get
Yes.
up. It's warm enough now, and
Right.
go out and just 10 minutes outside, enjoy the beautiful sound of the birds because I get up early, and just be out there, let the sunshine, get your body set for the day. And then at
Yes.
night, just turn off devices at a good hour before you go to bed. Don't look at anything, and that is so hard for us to do
Eh,
because
it
we're so
is.
geared in, but just at least have that as a goal. Turn off, and that will help your sleep. And then when you lay down, um, especially as a Christian, sometimes my mind is still racing. And so I'll just give it all to Jesus. I'll just have to say, Jesus,
I
I
love
give
that.
you everything. I give you everyone. And if there's a certain situation, then I'll just say, Jesus, here's this situation, here's that situation. And then know he can carry it for you through the night so that it's
Yes.
not something that you have to carry. And so getting enough exercise too is the other key. I think
Yes.
somebody reminded me of that one time. I was going through a really stressful time, and she was like, well, are you getting exercise? And I thought, no. And usually I
Yeah.
am,
Right.
but in the midst of that, I wasn't. And so I like immediately went and got on the treadmill, or went outside, did something that was aerobically active, but
Yes.
just walking around the block can make a difference. Walking around your house can make a difference too. If for some reason you can't go out, just go take 10 minutes and walk in your house, do jumping
Yes.
jacks, whatever you can do that gets your body moving and gets all those endorphins going, that can
Yeah.
help too. I think that's easy. And then drinking lots of water. I think we need to be really mindful of what we put into our bodies.
Mm.
And one of the things I think that we as Americans especially get tempted so quickly, is
Yes.
all the sweet drinks we have through all the
Yes.
carbonated drinks,
So
and
available.
all of them so available. They're quick. They give you a quick fix. So water, you can make water taste good, and you can even make it bubbly and fizzy if you want to add a little
Right.
something to it, to make it do that. But you can put lemon in there. You can put cucumber. You can put all these nice berries and kind of give it a little
Mhm.
flavor, because I know some people just do not like water at
Right.
all, but our body needs water. We need
Yes.
it. So,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
So really there's no excuse in our day and time for because of the options. So yeah,
Hmm.
awesome. Awesome. Well, Kathy, that has been so. I mean, I feel like there's so much more that we could go into on this, but you have given us a great like starting point of just kind of knowing some things that might be tipping us off that like, hey, there's actually some underlying stress going on that we need to address. Some great tips to deal with that. So tell us if we want to find you on social media, your website. So tell us how we can find you and learn more about what you do and learn more about these things.
Okay, I am on Facebook. I'm more there than Instagram, so better to go just to Kathy Bley on Facebook. I do have a health coach group as well, so if someone's
Okay.
interested in a little more of that, they can send me a message on Facebook, and I can connect them with my health coach group. And then also my website is daretobehealthynow.com. And
Awesome.
the reason it's named that is because every day I have to remind myself to dare my own self to be healthy, because it is
Mhm.
my responsibility. But on my Dare to Be Healthy Now website, you will see I'm a Juice Plus partner, so I am able to help
Yes.
people who have a hard time eating enough fruits and vegetables. I can help give you some tips on doing that, plus the simple tip of adding some of those Juice Plus capsules or their new Luminate, which is a
Yes.
fabulous brain food drink that I'm so excited about that just came out last week. And so those things are available through my website as well. Also have some books on Amazon. One of them is a Christian scripture based Dare to Be Healthy Now Wellness Journal. And that's a place that you can go to write down all these things we've talked about. How much water are you drinking? Are you getting your exercise? It's a good place to journal your health journey. And so those can be found on Amazon. I also have a prayer book on Amazon for praying for your kids. I know a lot of people are stressed because of what's going on with their children or their grandchildren. And so one thing we can do is to pray over them. And so I have
Yes.
a prayer journal there as well as a book there called Standing in the Gap for Our Kids. And so that's a
Awesome.
great place to do.
Awesome. So everyone check out her website, Dare to Be Healthy. Definitely look at all the things that she has to offer. Check out her books on Amazon and go check out her on Facebook and join her community so you can learn more from her. And definitely shout out to Juice Plus. It's also a product that we have taken for I can't even tell you how long now. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Kathy, for joining us. And we will talk to you again soon.